Welcome everyone to Hash Global Leadership Conversation 1. It's absolutely wonderful to be with you. A couple of minutes conversation today with Craig Ross Muller. I'll welcome him in a moment. And of course, the whole conversation is about trying to address the global leadership crisis. This is conversation number 1, speaking to various experts and individuals in the field of leadership, in the field of leadership development, and leaders out there leading. We think we have a global leadership crisis. In fact, I don't think we think it. In general, people agree. Thank goodness for pockets of excellence. And I'm asking 2 simple questions. I'm inviting you to interview your own leaders. And in due course, we will put all this on the Global Leadership Platform app so that we can have this conversation. So with me, Craig Ross Muller. He's from SuperCube and he's doing his doctorate in leadership. So he obviously has strong views and a model, but I'm putting him under pressure with just 2 questions today. And here they go. As you all know by now, I asked them very specifically, what is the most important? Well, let me first say welcome, Craig.
Cool, Adrian, thank you very much. It's great for you to reach out to me. I know we've had various interactions over Twitter and email, and I just applaud you for what you're doing in this space. You've obviously dedicated a lot of time and resources toward addressing this. Likewise, like many of us, just in different aspects. But I think what you're doing is phenomenal. So just thank you for this opportunity. And I really hope that this helps touch the lives of various people that can influence positive change, not only in our country, but in other countries as well.
Thanks, Craig. I look forward to calling you doctor soon.
So do I. And so does my wife.
Craig, okay, so the first question we ask all these individuals we have a conversation with is, what is the most important quality or attribute we need to develop, awaken, or improve in leaders if we are going to turn around the current leadership crisis? Where does your vote go?
So my vote goes to, I believe we need to change our leadership perspective. I know that's quite broad-based, but essentially, like, my argument is we need to create a universal, coherent leadership model. For instance, if you think about creating change, which is what you're trying to do, we're trying to go from here, problem, to a solution. We need to have some kind of perspective. Yes, we need drive and whatnot, but I believe that if we change our perspective and we have a common vision or a common model to work with, it'll help us address those problems. So for instance, if we look at development in essence, development requires change. Change is a process of creating awareness, understanding, buy-in, and commitment to change. The key, I believe, is understanding. Now, understanding, if we all use different philosophies, theories, terms and definitions, and approaches and models, well, the answers are going to be varied. So for instance, it's like trying to address a problem using a thermodynamic model, but you're addressing an accounting problem. While both models are great in their various contexts, that thermodynamic model wouldn't answer a balance sheet question. So my argument, again, is using the correct model. And that's what I've dedicated my time and effort towards doing. So moving from an abstract perspective of leadership to an absolute, something concrete. It's almost like if I spoke to you about the Mona Lisa, I could explain it in various ways and you'd create these own concepts and pictures in your mind. But until you actually see it in context, can you really understand? So imagine if we have a whole bunch of leaders using the same model, singing from the same hymn sheet. I believe with that, we'll create the groundswell to address these problems.
Okay. So are you saying we can pretty much, all of us, define what engineering is, or we can define what a teacher is, and we have a common understanding of what that is? There might be different teaching philosophies, there might be different categories of engineers, but in general, we all understand what an engineer is. But when it comes to leadership, we're all so scattered in our view of what leadership is or what a leader is. So that's a starting point. We're not even agreeing on that. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, 100% correct. I mean, you asked, it's actually like the most widely and broadly discussed topic, yet least agreed upon. I mean, I think there are roughly 2,000, 20,000 articles written a year or more, and there's no general consensus or agreement on leadership, what it is. There are leading people who have created some sort of groundswell, and it's evolving through time. So what I've dedicated the last literally 10 years toward doing is building this model, which I think takes complexity and makes it simple. So in the change management process, like if you want to understand something, for instance, like the Mona Lisa, if I show you a picture, you can look at it and quickly understand it. It's about understanding. So again, if we use various models and different philosophies and terms and approaches, well, you're going to get a varied result. But if you want a consistent result, you need to use a consistent model. And that's what I believe is what is required.
Okay. So we're saying what attribute or quality is needed in leaders if we're going to turn around this crisis. So you're saying, you're coming from another angle, you're saying, well, if we want to turn around the crisis, we must come with some unanimity around what leadership is and leadership model. Does your model that you're working on, would that in a way highlight what the top attribute would be of a leader? I mean, you'd have a model, so we can't go through the whole model now, but
yes.
What would be the top attribute or quality that a leader must possess in order to in today's world?
Decision-making intelligence. Your decision-making intelligence. What do you base your decisions on?
Okay.
I mean, that's fundamentally our first birthright. We are given freedom of choice. To a large degree, we're given freedom of choice. So you can choose what you want to do with your life. You can choose how you want to address a certain problem. I can see both you and I have chosen to participate in this leadership debate to try and address these problems. I could choose to do something else, but I think, choice is our first birthright, and that's what we should really, and just make sure that our decision-making intelligence is based on a solid foundation. And that's what I call principles. Our choices should be based on principles.
So decision-making intelligence, choices based on principles, is what you, I mean, there would be a couple, but that's what you'd put on top. Now, let's go to question number 2, which is this a standard question that we ask. How do we best develop or awaken or improve this decision intelligence? What did you say? Decision-making intelligence. How do we develop, awaken it, bring it to the surface of leaders?
I believe by actually showing them the model. So for instance, we can have this discussion, for instance, like the Mona Lisa. We have this discussion in various contexts, and everyone's got their own different perspective. But when you bring a model, so for instance, like the balanced scorecard, there's cause and effect. You can understand like how everything fits together. So the way that I see it is, if we use a coherent or universal leadership model and present it to people, it really helps accelerate that understanding. And a commitment to change.
Okay, so does your model then help leaders develop this decision-making intelligence?
100%, yeah, I believe so. Because it takes a holistic approach of a person, of, for instance, like myself, you, everybody. Cognitive, emotional, spiritual, physical, decision-making, and principles, those 6 different dimensions. And then as we progress through different stages of our lives, if you use the same model, just build on it. So for instance, when we're a child, we learn basic addition. As we grow through various stages of our lives, we add on to that. Excuse the pun, but I mean, we grow and we use the principle of addition in various facets and dimensions. So for instance, accounting, engineering, science just becomes more complex. So if you use a consistent approach from early on and use it throughout your life, you should get improved, like get better and better and better. So again, like my perspective to awaken that is to create a simple understanding, and that is presenting a very simple model that people can understand and apply.
Okay, so people will be exposed to that to some degree at SuperCube. You've got a website and that sort of thing, and that's what
that's right.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the perspective that I've taken. It helps me address, like for instance, when I read and I see what's happening in the newspaper, on Twitter, in the news, across various platforms, you see that the problems are social problems, economic, environmental. Again, like I look at those problems and I know we can address them pretty simply if everyone just makes their choices based on a set of principles. If we are ethical, if we do what is right. But the challenge is trying to get everyone to have that similar perspective and make their choices on those principles to do what's right. It sounds pretty simple, but it actually does boil down to that.
So I mean, let's close off the conversation, Craig, and I wish you well with your model.
Thank you.
Obviously, there would, I guess, be many out there saying there's different models, but model, process, approach, the different words, I guess, that describes the same thing. And I'm supposing your model allows for individuality. So my individual personality and attributes as a human being will remain intact, and I can almost place that on top of your model, and therefore I'm not going to become a robot, because we're all unique 100%. And complex. Okay.
And that's the beauty about it, is that everyone learns differently. Everyone is visual, audio, kinetic. We all think differently: inductive, deductive, lateral, critical thinking. So this helps develop and grow an individual as from a leader then into a leadership position where you positively influencing people.
Okay. Craig Ross Muller, thank you so much for these few minutes. I think you've brought a nice perspective, and we look forward to sharing it with the world out there as we launch the Global Leadership Conversation 1 campaign, eventually leading to the Global Leadership Platform app. And good luck with your doctorate, and we appreciate your time. We look forward to more conversations in the future.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you. Global Leadership Conversation 1. Folks, join us. Please join us. Interview leaders, experts, yourself even, and put it on the platform so that we can all debate and discuss the results. And I'm seeing an interesting trend as I interview leaders. Thank you, Craig Ross Muller, for joining us then.